thing? Thanks for that way down. So in your life, they say that life begins at birth and goes all the way to death and beyond that. But it's not a straight line, is it? Do you ever think of your life? Your life is not a straight line, is it? Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes your life, like you take 2 steps forward, and then suddenly you're taking 1 step back. Maybe you're taking 1 step forward, and then 1 step to the side. And sometimes you're taking 2 steps back, and 1 step forward. And it's almost like, your life isn't going in a straight line. Your life is more like a dance. You're kind of dancing through life. Ever get that feeling that's like that? As I was reading through this part of Acts, it just came to me that, the early church is all like a dance. And really cool things are happening. And it's 2 steps forward. And something terrible happens, and it's 1 step back. It's not a line, but it's more like a dance. Just look at the first verse, for example. It says, now in those days, when the disciples were increasing in number, increasing in number, that's really good. 2 steps forward. Wow, everything's going swell. 2 steps forward. But then, the very, very next line, it says, the Hellenists complained against the Hebrews because the widows were being neglected in the daily distribution of food. 1 step back. Took 2 steps forward because everything is growing and doing well, but there was some grumbling, complaining, 1 step back. It just seems to go like that throughout these first verses of this chapter. Now, I don't want to get bogged down with who all these people were, the Hellenists, all these people. That would take an hour-long Bible study to figure out all these different people. But to make it kind of understandable for all of us, let's just say that the early church was really ecumenical, truly ecumenical. It was made up, let's say, of Catholics, Lutherans, Methodists, Norwegians, and Swiss. So we can see how there are issues in the early church. This is the dance of the early church. There's verse 7, verse 7. The word of God continued to spread, and the number of disciples increased greatly in Jerusalem. Wow, that's 2, 3 steps forward, right, in the dance. And they didn't do a bit of organizing. It's pretty cool. And then the verse 9 says, well, some of them belonged to the synagogue of the freedmen, and they stood up and they argued with Stephen. Well, now you got 2 steps back, 1 step to the side, and dancing. Verse 13, they sent out false witnesses. Well, now you're 2 steps back in this dance. And I added verse 15 because it said, when they looked upon Stephen, it looked like they were looking at the face of an angel. 2 steps forward. The dance of the early church. I tell you what, it's like a dance. I wanted to get stuck. I wanted to stay with that image of the church as a dance. Then I was going to spend all this time talking about how we as a church do this dance. You have a church council that does some steps one way or another, and then you have the youth who are going a little different direction. Then you have the people in charge of the kitchen, and you know who you are. That's another step in a whole different direction. And then you have people talking about money for electricity and then money for missions. There's 2 different kinds of dances going on. So I wanted to just do that. I just want to stay within the confines of the church for this dance. I couldn't do it. Because a dance breaks free. A dance cannot be contained within the confines of the church. Just like Jesus, right? Jesus broke free from the tomb. They could not keep him contained in the tomb. He broke free, and this 3rd Sunday of Easter we again celebrate that Jesus is free. The Lord of the dance is free. I got to thinking about all that, about how all of us have these dances in our lives. And I realized we've all been invited to the ball. We've all been invited to the dance floor. And not only have we been invited to the ball, but we've actually been placed on the ball. God has given us this most beautiful and glorious dance floor we could ever imagine. It's blue and white and green, and when it's looked from space, it's the most beautiful planet there is anywhere. And we are invited to be on it, to twirl, and move forward and backward and to the side. We're dancing the dance of our lives on this dance floor that the Lord of the dance has given to us. got to thinking about all this and realized that each of us has a dance of life. And how we're all on the same dance floor, the same ball, and we share the same floor, and we once in a while dance into one another during the course of the dance. We share some of the experiences of one another as we dance the dance of life. And sometimes we dance along people who have tremendous joy and celebration, and we get to share in that joy and celebration of their life. It was back on this Palm Sunday. We got to dance with Kimberly Evelyn and her husband as her young daughter was baptized. I've gotten to dance with Kimberly Evelyn before. When Kimberly was in confirmation, you know, you have to fill out those worship books. I don't think you have to fill those. I think you're done. You have one more? Anyway, the worship notes, okay? But Kimberly Evelyn's worship note always had the same line in it, somewhere in a note. She said, "Life is just peachy." Kimberly Evelyn always said that. And so on Palm Sunday during the baptism, her life was indeed peachy. You just see the glow in her eyes as her daughter was being baptized. And then just this last Sunday, the second Sunday of Easter, when Christ is risen from the tomb, the Lord of the dance had another baptism. And we had the baptism of William Wade Wines. And William's grandfather sang a song of God's love for everyone. And isn't it amazing that God even loves us? Gathering that afternoon at the Brentford house, the dance of joy was abundant. The eyes, the small hands, and small eyes of all the children there. And the dance of joy with the moms, dads, and grandparents there. It's a wonderful dance of life. Dance then wherever you may be. For I am the Lord of the dance, said Jesus. Dance with all of them. The dance of joy and celebration. And then, of course, there are other dances in life. Baseball season has just begun. And so I would imagine that with the crack of the bats of the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers, the family and the friends of Harlan Watru, who passed away a little over a month ago, they would have had memories of their brother, of their uncle, of their good friend. Because they would have memories of the baseball games that Harlan played. And they would have memories of how he listened to Chicago Cubs on the radio as he plowed the fields in the spring. And they would have danced the dance of memory. And the Lord of the dance would have been there right in the midst of them, remembering a life well lived, full and strong. Then, of course, there are all the other dances. For not all dances are dances of joy. Some are dances of sorrow and deep sadness. There's the dance of Ted and Angela, who lost their daughter, Angel. A dance of a mother's empty arms that should be holding a baby, but they are not. The Lord of the dance is there, slowly dancing with them. And there's the dance of Courtney and Tyler, who laid to rest their infant girl, Charlotte, on the day before Jesus had his last meal with his disciples. And again, they are dancing with empty arms. But the Lord of the dance is there with them as well, with no words to speak, only the presence of the grace of God to see them through. As we see all these dances on this earthly ball, we see how our dance weaves in and out of all these other dances. Last Sunday afternoon, Carol and I were on our way to Madison. We were going to St. Mary's Hospital. We were going there, I was going there, to visit a woman who just a week before thought everything in her life was just fine, but then suddenly found out that her heart was not fine at all, and she had open heart surgery on Friday. We were going to send there because we knew she was doing well. She had that big heart-shaped pillow that she was hanging on to. She was doing well, she was recovering fine, surgery went great. So we went there to be with her at that time, and as we were there, we were doing that dance. At the same time, there was another dance going on, a dance of great tragedy and great sorrow, as our Bishop Bruce Burnside drove into a woman and killed her. Such tremendous sorrow. At 6 p.m. on last Sunday, Our dance was a dance that involved having pizza with our daughter Bethany and with Grant. And as we chatted merrily about life and roller derbies and teaching and all the rest, there was another dance going on. As Bishop Bruce was being placed into a jail cell, his dance full of despair and sorrow and regret. As our dance was filled with pizza and joy, another dance was going on. As a husband and 3 children began to dance their worst nightmare, a wife and mother taken too soon, too early, too tragic. But the Lord of the dance was there in the pizza parlor. And the Lord of the dance was there in the jail cell. And the Lord of the dance was most certainly there when the music came to a sudden stop and the tears began to flow. The risen Christ was there with his nail-pierced hands, and he held that fan to so. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the Lord of the dance, said he. Last Monday afternoon, my own dance included the smell of sawdust, and there were memories of my father who did a lot of carpentry work. Last Monday afternoon, the family of Maureen Menglet sat with a funeral director, who hopefully had the same grace and care that our own Paul has. And they danced in darkness and deep sadness. Last Monday, the residents of our synod staff danced from 1 hour to the next hour in a fog so dense they could not see what the next hour would bring. But through it all, the Lord of the dance remained, and the dance went on. Our dance of life shares the floor, shares the same ball with all the rest. And we share the joys, we share the sorrows, we share life, and we simply dance on. This is the 3rd Sunday of Easter. Since the 3rd Sunday we celebrate that the tomb is empty, the rock has been rolled away. Good, thank heavens for that. For Jesus could not be contained within the tomb. There are times we simply need to know that our dance partner is also the Lord of the dance. There are times when we take 1 step forward and take 2 steps back. Times when we take 1 step forward and 1 step to the side. Times when we're dancing our toes. We're so filled with joy. Times when we are thrown into the sky because of a celebration. And thank heaven the Lord of the dance is there. How can we ever do that without him? There are also times we stand still on the dance floor and we can't hear the music anymore because the sorrow is so great. Thank heaven the Lord of the dance is there beside us. How do we know what step to take next? We need a partner for this dance of life to twirl us around with joy, to toss us in the air with laughter, to slow dance in the quiet, to have us sit, take a piece of bread and a glass of wine, and tell us, this is my body, this is my blood. I love you so much. I always will dance with you. Dance then, wherever you may be. For I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all